Hey guys, welcome to Edit with Rune. I'm Rune, and today I want to talk a little bit about developing photos. If you're new here to the channel, this channel is all about video editing, photography, tips and tricks, stuff like that. If you like the content like that, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, so you don't miss out. I upload every single Sunday. I was first introduced to photography when I was 16. I was at a boarding school with other creative mindsets, and I was doing an extra course on photography. Even though the market had started turning into a digital way of doing things, the first phones with cameras in them came out, the first digital cameras with digital sensors had come out. This class used traditional film, and I absolutely loved it. I simply love the emotions that come with shooting on analog film. With a traditional film strip, you often have like 24 or 30 shots per roll of film. And with each film, you have to go into a red room and you have to develop the film yourself. It's a very manual process, and you develop certain emotions for every single shot that you take. As cameras became more digital, the physical connection to each photo has been lost, in my opinion. Rather than standing in a red room and developing the photos, you have your mouse and keyboard and you edit it in Photoshop or Lightroom. For the past year, I've used a small device that I have with here today that I want to talk about. It's called the Loupedeck Plus. It's the second generation of the Loupedeck, hence the Plus. So it's really annoying to say Loupedeck Plus, Loupedeck Plus, Loupedeck Plus. So for the rest of the video, I'll just say Loupedeck, if that's okay with you guys. The Loupedeck is an extra piece of tech that you use when you're editing. It could be in Lightroom, it could be in Photoshop, and it could be in Premiere Pro. It serves the same purpose for different types of editing software. Instead of you having to use the digital dials that's placed inside Lightroom, for instance, you have physical dials and physical buttons that you can turn and you can press. So for instance, if I have this picture here, I can turn up the exposure while simply just turning the exposure dial here, and it cranks up the exposure in Lightroom. And of course, I can turn it down as I want it to, and I can push it down if I just want to reset it. Or for instance, I can turn up the hue of the green color in this picture by simply just pressing the hue button and then turning the green dial. Now you can see the green becomes all explosive green. And I can just push down the dial and it resets the green color. The Loupedeck was originally designed to be used with Lightroom. However, over the years, the Loupedeck team has worked with incorporating the Loupedeck to be used with all different kinds of software. So far, I've used it primarily in Lightroom. I've also used it when I need to color grade in Premiere Pro, and I've just briefly tested it out in Photoshop. But usually I do all of my color correction inside Lightroom, and I use Photoshop for other things. The Loupedeck team constantly puts in new software that the Loupedeck is compatible with. If you want to check it out, I'll put a link in my description to the Loupedeck website. I'm not sponsored, by the way. This is my honest opinion on the Loupedeck, because I'm actually pretty excited about having this as an extra piece for my editing setup. One of the best things about Loupedeck is actually a pretty simple one. It's the screen mode button. I can hit the screen mode button, and then I'm able to edit full screen using these physical buttons. This is pretty nifty, especially if you're using just a simple laptop setup. Then being able to use the full screen when you're sitting and adjusting colors and adjusting the temperature, the crop of the picture and everything. Being able to use that functionality in a full screen mode is just awesome. I really like it. Another cool thing about the Loupedeck is that Even though it has this really nifty layout, which is really simple and really intuitive, you're able to go into custom mode. That means that once you press the custom mode, you can set up the Loupedeck entirely as you want. So it can be configured to fit your exact way of editing. But in my opinion, the best thing about Loupedeck is that when you have everything laid out neatly like this, it encourages you to sit and experiment with the settings. So, for instance, I just sit here when I edit, and I constantly go into the extremes, like, okay, what would this picture look like with a high exposure and then a low exposure and a high contrast and a low contrast, and you simply just you experiment more. Is that a car alarm that just went off? Okay, the car alarm stopped. What was I saying? The Loupedeck really encourages creativity, in my opinion, because you just experiment more. For instance, I have pictures that I've taken like years back, and I've recently re-imported it into Lightroom just to see which direction I can take them, because I mean, I have the same setup digitally inside Lightroom, but once it's laid out like this, I can just sit here relaxed and then turn the dials like in all sorts of directions, and it, in my opinion, it's improved my creativity as a photographer. Of course, it has the same layout as inside Lightroom. It doesn't introduce that many new things, but the Loupedeck is just so intuitive that it just encourages you to try more things. The big question is, of course, does it make your workflow faster? And it's both yes and no. I don't think particularly it makes my workflow faster as a photographer, as an editor, but it definitely makes you a better creator, because it just encourages you to try different things. Having a workflow that's a bit more physical with these physical buttons and dials, for some it might be faster, for some it might be slower, simply because there are so many other ways of working. But I've simply experienced that for me as a creative editor, it's made my workflow better, because it just encourages me to try new things. But it doesn't make me a faster editor necessarily. So, but I think that the quality of my work has been improved since I've incorporated this Loupedeck into my workflow. In my opinion, the Loupedeck is probably not for everyone. For people that have a permanent setup, this could of course be nice to have and easy to have lying around, already set up to a stationary system. For me personally, I don't have a editing den. I have my dining room, my living room. I edit every once in a while. I sit in my dining room. Sometimes I sit in my living room and edit, but it's really not that big a hassle. It has a USB cable, so you simply just take it out of the closet, put it in the USB, and then it works. So it's pretty fast to set up, but of course, having an extra thing that you have to plug into your computer, it's probably not for everyone. But I would really encourage everyone to try it out and see for themselves if it improves their workflow, or if it simply just improves their creativity. So, and the whole being able to edit in full screen, that's just awesome. It's really something you need to try out for yourself and see if it's something that you like. I'll probably feature this Loupedeck in another video. I simply wanted to do a short video where I talk about my impressions so far. There is much more to say about it. I could do a separate video just showing you how it works in Lightroom. I could do a separate video on how to use it in Premiere Pro. So of course, if you'd like to see some of those videos, please let me know down in the comments, and I'll get started on it. And of course, if you like this video, please hit the like button, and if you would like to see more from this channel, hit the subscribe button and the bell so you don't miss a thing. So yeah, until next time, bye! Oh, that was a terrible outro. Okay, see you around.